warahmatullahi
Walaikum
wabarakatuh.
salam.
Oh, wow, incredible. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Praise be to Allah who has been giving us some mercies and blessing. So we can join in this virtual meeting under the topic Distant Learning in Language Teaching, Trends, Challenges, and Opportunities, held by English Education Study Program, Faculty of Teaching and Educational Sciences, Ashrafia Islamic University, Jakarta. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Hanafi Wibowo, the moderator of today's seminar. I am very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you to this webinar. To make our discussion run smoothly, the speaker will be invited to deliver his presentation until it is finished. For all participants, please turn off your speaker during the presentation. You may send your question anytime during the presentation by typing your question into chat room. I will collect and address them during the question and answer session. To liven up our discussion today, we already invited our speaker in the session, Mr. Robert Eckhart. Mr. Robert Eckhart, uh, did I pronounce your name well?
Eckhart.
Eckhart, sorry. How do you want me to call you, sir?
Bob. Bob is good.
Okay, Bob. Okay, thank you, Bob. Good afternoon, Mr. Bob. How is your life today?
It's good. It's great. I'm in Moldova, a small
Okay.
European country between Romania and Ukraine.
Okay. May I know what time is it right now over there, Bob?
12 o'clock, noon.
12. Okay, at noon. Okay. Okay, I hope you are having a wonderful day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I will read the personal profile of Mr. Robert Eckhart or Bob. He is the program manager for Summer English Communication Program in China, Indonesia, and Turkey in 2004 till 2019. He is the American director of WHO OSU Center for American Culture at the campus of Wuhan University in 2012 to 2018. He is a lecturer at Ohio University, and he was the executive director of the combined ESL program in 2013 to 2015. He is a guest lecturer at Sunburn Novel or U Paris 3 and Paris Descartes or U of Paris 5 and a visiting instructor at Syrian University and Human Agricultural University in 2019 to 2020. And also he completed two grants as a Fulbright Scholar, the first at Ming State Linguistic University in 2018 as a visiting professor in the Teacher Training Institute. The second at Belarusian State University in 2019 in the Economic and Management Department, teaching business communication. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and now I invite Bob to present your presentation. Bob, you
Great.
have an hour including question and answer session. The time is yours.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, and thanks for the invitation to talk to all of you today. And where I am in Moldova, we'd say buongiorno. I think in Indonesia, we can say assalamu alaikum. And in America, we say hello. We say hello. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Today, as you can kind of see from my opening slide, the title is very long: Smartphones and YouTube, online informal learning of English and the future of independent learning. But you can see from the graphic that really the concept is quite basic. I want to talk about taking the smartphone and using YouTube and turning learners independent and autonomous. So let me start. This is, I'm in Ohio, or I'm not in Ohio, I'm from Ohio. Some of you are in Ohio. Ohio State University has hosted many Indonesian scholars, and we have a partnership through Usintech with many universities. In 2015, I was able to come to Gorontalo, Surabaya, Jakarta, Yogyakarta, Penang, lots of places. And so I was looking through my photos this morning, and it's really wonderful to see all the smiling faces. This is when I made my visit to the primary school of Barack Obama, which was a real highlight and a thrill for me. And I also got some traditional Indonesian clothing that I wore, and I still wear with great pride. So we'll have two parts to the talk. The first part is about the perform culture approach to language teaching and learning, and the online learning of English with some case studies. So these two parts go hand in hand. The online learning of English is perfectly suited with the perform culture approach to language teaching and learning. So the first question we ask ourselves is, why do people learn languages? There are many reasons. Sometimes it is only to pass a test, sometimes to get a job, to do business, to travel. Also, maybe to get married to someone in a different language or culture. But the bottom line is that people learn language in order to do something. They want to do something: work, travel, play, etc. So here's what I mean. Here's something you might do. If you go to Paris, maybe you need to ride the bus. Or if you come to Columbus, Ohio, you need to ride the bus. Or here in Moldova, I need to ride the bus. And every city might have different rules and behavior and customs for riding the bus. So here's what I do before I go to a new city. Before I go to Paris, I get on YouTube and I do a search, how to ride the bus in Paris, and I find a video. And the video tells me, if you don't have a ticket, don't worry, you can get a ticket from the driver. Now, interestingly, where I am in Moldova, there is a driver and there is always a second person on the bus who sells the tickets. So there's a woman who rides the bus, and you her 3 lei and you buy your ticket. Now, a Moldovan woman yesterday told me an interesting story. When she went to Germany, she got on the bus. She thought there would be a woman there to buy the ticket from. There was not a woman there. She was surprised, and she had to pay a penalty because she did not have a ticket. So before you go anywhere or do anything in a new culture, you can use YouTube to help you figure out how to do it, and maybe the language associated with how to do it. So here's the slide. No ticket, no worries. If you don't have a ticket, you can purchase it from the driver. So if I come to Jakarta, I get on YouTube and I say, riding a bus in Jakarta. How do I do it? And then you find videos. So here's a video, 459,000 views, trying Jakarta's public transportation as a foreigner. As one of the most populous cities in the world, getting around Jakarta can be quite confusing. And the truth is, getting around my city is quite confusing. Getting around everywhere can be quite confusing, but we can use YouTube now, and your students can use YouTube to learn things they could never learn before. Okay, so so I'm suggesting that YouTube is one of the most comprehensive curriculums in the history of language and culture understanding. Now, here's a typical French book. The first foreign language I studied was Latin. The second foreign language I studied was French. This is a typical French book. This is what I would say has a one-size-fits-all approach. It has general topic lessons. You can see the lessons, facial gestures, holidays, landmarks, cuisine, sports, famous artists. Well, you know, if you're using this textbook in Canada, things will be very different. If you're using this textbook in Senegal, which is a francophone country, English books, because you use English in Indonesia. We use English in Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, England, United States. And even within these countries, the language use in New York, Columbus, Chicago, New Orleans, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, the English can be a little different in all those places. So I try to stay away from one size fits all textbooks and encourage learners to use things like YouTube, which can be compartmentalized and meet the language challenges of niche language users. So here's a little bit about my background and my travel. My degrees are in economics, cultural studies, and law. Cultural studies is where I studied education and the impact that culture has on education. The languages I've studied are Latin and French. And then if you study Latin, you can sort of pick up Spanish and Italian. And here in Moldova, they speak Romanian, which is a Romance language. So I get in a taxi and the taxi driver says "Buona mattina," which I recognize as Italian. When I get out of the taxi, I say "Merci," which is French. And I hear the taxi driver also using some Russian because Moldova was part of the USSR. So this country is very multilingual, but it's okay because I've studied Latin and I can pick up Spanish, Italian, Romanian. I've also studied sign language, and I have studied a little bit of Chinese. So these are some of the countries that I've been to. I had a 2-week tour of Indonesia in 2015. I was hoping to return to Indonesia in 2020 before the pandemic. So I should also say, I hope all of you and your families are doing okay. I know the pandemic is a horrible situation and it is affecting all of our countries differently. But, you know, I'm thinking about all of my friends all over the world, including in Indonesia. And I hope that you can survive and get yourselves through the pandemic, inshallah. So if you want to learn more about me, we can post this link. You can look at it later. This is my online publications. I use Berkeley Electronic Press. I know some people also use ResearchGate, but if you go to this web address, you can see all of my publications, and I'm happy to share those with you. But I think the full text is available in all those places. So this is Ohio State University. Every building that you see there is Ohio State. It's got 60,000 students, 40,000 faculty and staff. I was actually born at the OSU Medical Center in the very bottom of the picture because my mother worked there in the hospital. So she just went to work every day, and eventually I came. But this is our campus. It's huge. You notice this is the football stadium in the middle of the campus. It's almost like a cathedral because the religion of our university sometimes is football and not soccer, like American football. Okay, so if you came to Ohio State, University, something that's very important for you to understand would be the culture of football. And if you wanted to come here, I would have you watch some YouTube videos. This is a very individualized lesson, how to tailgate at an Ohio State football game. This means sort of how to participate in the culture and enjoy the culture. Because one thing about tailgating, this is tailgating 101. A tailgate is a party. The pickup truck has a gate. We call that a tailgate. We put the tailgate down, we serve food, and typically the food is meat. So I think everybody, I'm a vegetarian, but everyone else around the world seems to enjoy meat. So I think you would have a good time, and you could learn about this lesson through YouTube. This lesson is not available in any textbook. There's no way to learn this studying books, but if you have YouTube and a smartphone, you can learn an individualized lesson about coming to Ohio State University. So what is the goal? What is the goal of the Perform Culture approach and intercultural competency and communication? There's 4 goals. 3 of them are things we want to do. 1 of them is things we want to avoid. The goal is to strengthen personal relationships, demonstrate cultural understanding, and join the global community. Those are the goals. What we would like to avoid is communication breakdowns, taboos, and other offensive situations that would weaken personal relationships. So we want personal relationships to be stronger and to grow, not to be weakened. And we do this through intercultural competency and communication. So we return to this question. Why do our students learn languages? They learn a language in order to do something. So each student in your classroom might have a slightly different goal. Some students might only want to pass the test. Some students might want to get a job. Some students might want to do business. Some students might want to travel. Some students might simply want to communicate with foreigners. We need to help each one of our students reach their goals, help them learn a language in order to do something. So the Perform Culture approach says 2 things primarily. And you'll notice on this book, there's some Chinese. My advisor wrote this book because he is the master. He's a white American guy, and he is a master of teaching Chinese to foreigners. And he developed the pedagogy of performing another culture, because to communicate in China, you have to know more than just the characters. You have to know more than the vocabulary. In any language, you have to know more than just the grammar. You have to understand that language cannot be separated from the cultural context in which it occurs. So this is the language, this is the cultural context. They are intertwined. Culture gives meaning to language. So you have to understand the culture. So many Chinese English learners only focus on vocabulary and grammar and not culture. So they come to America, they have memorized the vocabulary, they have memorized the grammar, but they are unable to communicate successfully because they don't understand the culture and the cultural context of language. Number two, in learning a foreign language, we are actually learning a foreign culture. So especially if you're watching YouTube videos, you're not just learning language. And by language, I mean vocabulary and grammar. You're not just learning language, you're learning a culture. You're learning to do things in a language, in a target culture. So maybe your target culture is Australia. Maybe it's New Zealand. Maybe it's Canada. Maybe it's Ireland, England, Scotland. Maybe it's the United States. And within the United States, maybe it's New York, Chicago, New Orleans, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, or Columbus. This is your target. And within Columbus, the Ohio State University has a lot of its own language. Any university in America has its own vocabulary. It has language and vocabulary that is specific to that university. So we need to allow students to customize and individualize their language learning and cultural understanding. Language cannot be separated from a cultural context. In learning a language, you're learning a culture, and you're learning to do things in the language, in the target culture. So this is the traditional view of culture: literature, fashion, food, language. These are aspects of culture. In the perform culture approach, we say language plus culture equals communication. Language is defined by the cultural situation it is used in. Here's a perfect example. Think of the word football, which I used earlier. 95% of the world uses football to describe this picture on the right, what we call soccer. But if you have learned the word football and you think football is soccer, when you come to America, if we ask you to go to a football game, or if we ask you to play football, and you are excited because you like soccer, but then you're playing football, it could be a disaster. American football is violent and brutal, barbaric. Sometimes it's even deadly. And we don't want you to get injured if you come to America. So you have to know that some words that you think you recognize, it's the same exact word, but it has a completely different meaning. So words are culturally defined. Here's another example. When I go to China, one of my favorite foods to eat is hot pot. Hot pot in China is this food on the left. It is a boiling broth. And you can see the one on the right is red and very, very spicy. That's what I love the most, hot pot. Well, the picture on the right is the word hot pot in England. It's a restaurant in England that serves hot pot. Same exact word, completely different food. If you go to England and you order hot pot and you think you're getting spicy hot pot, you're actually getting something that looks like meat and potatoes. Very actually sort of boring looking. Does not look delicious to me. So when we use the perform culture approach, we expect changes in three aspects. We want to move from teacher-centered to student-centered, moving from the teacher at the center to the learner. The role of the teacher is to be a coach or a cultural expert or guide. We believe that language cannot be taught. Language must be learned. The learners need to learn it. You can't stand in the front of the room and simply teach people language. They need to use it in order to learn it. That's number one, moving from a teacher-centered classroom to a learner-centered classroom. Number two, moving from textbooks and grammar focused to multimedia and culture focused. Materials should be based on the learner, not based on the teacher. And it's very easy. It's very easy to get a textbook and teach from a textbook. Okay, students, everybody open to page 32. Today, we're going to learn this list of vocabulary words. That's very easy for the teacher, but it's not going to be successful. We need to teach students how to use language in a target culture. That's number two. Number three, we want to move from examination-oriented to performance-oriented in terms of our assessment. Instead of an assessment, which is on a piece of paper, students write answers, when we have language classrooms, we use performance-based assessments, testing how the learner uses the language in a particular communication assessment. Our assessments are usually videos. The students make a video and send it to us. So these are the three goals of the perform culture approach. Move from teacher-centered to student-centered, move from textbook to multimedia, move from written exams to performances. And I think that using smartphones and YouTube, the online informal learning of English helps us achieve these goals. This is just a slide about the different kinds of greetings that people do. And we can find these videos about how to do greetings on YouTube. In some countries, they kiss the cheek, kiss to the left, kiss to the right. In some countries, they kiss to the left, they kiss to the right, they kiss to the left. And you need to know how they do it. In Europe, they kiss left and right. In Argentina, there are 12 different ways to kiss hello. In Moldova, there are different ways to greet. In America, there are different ways to greet. When I meet men, I shake their hands. When I meet women, I wait for them to offer their hand. If they want to shake my hand, I shake their hand. With my very close friends, I give a hug. With my African-American friends, I give something that's called a bro hug. It starts with a handshake and then it goes to a hug. So it's very different. How, so you can't just teach your students in America, we shake hands because we don't always shake hands. And so you need to teach your students the complexities based on cultural references. And so before I come to Moldova, I look at videos. How do I greet people? Moldova is Europe, but it was also part of the Soviet world. So it's a very multicultural place. Okay, so let me give you a quick example of what I mean by a performance. A performance, the way we teach it in a classroom, has 5 parts. It has a certain place, it has actors, it has rules, it has a time, and it has a script. So here's an example. This is an office in America with 2 Americans. If someone comes to my office, they say, "Hey, I'm thirsty." I don't offer someone, when someone comes to my office for a meeting, I don't offer them something to drink. That's just not the American custom. We get down to business. If they say, "Hey, I'm thirsty," I'll say, "Well, go to the drinking fountain and get a drink and come back so we can start the meeting." The rule is, if you want something, you ask for it. Americans are not great hosts. In China, with 2 Chinese people, you walk in, they say, "Would you like some tea?" The Chinese person says no. and the other Chinese person says, are you sure you don't want some tea? They say no. Are you sure? And then finally they say, yes, please. So the rule is when someone offers you something, you turn it down, you politely refuse it before you accept it. So this is with two Chinese people. Here's in the United States with one Chinese person, one American. So the American person realizes Chinese people like tea. They offer a Chinese person the tea, but the Chinese person says no because they're playing by Chinese rules. So the American says, okay, let's get started. They don't know the rule is they say no, you offer, they say no, you offer, they say yes. If I go to China and I don't know the rules, the Chinese person offers me some tea and I say, yes, please, I'll take it. And they think that I'm very rude because I didn't say no once or twice first. Okay, so now when I go to Turkey, in Turkey, they also drink a lot of tea. And in Turkey, you don't have to say no. They offer you tea, you say yes. But then as soon as, and it's usually a small tea glass. In Turkey, they use these tea glasses that are this size. You see this little Turkish tea glass. So they put that in front of you. And as soon as you finish it, they give you more tea because the rule is the cup can never be empty. But in America, we always finish our drink. So the first time I went to Turkey, they gave me the tea. I finished the tea. They gave me more tea. I finished the tea. They gave me more tea. I finished the tea. But the first day I was there, I think I drank 22 cups of tea because I didn't know the rule. And the rule is we always finish things. The rule is they always fill it. And so what I needed to do was drink most of it. I needed to drink most of it, but not the part at the bottom. So the point is you have to know the rules. This is before I went to France, I tried to figure out the rules, and there are other rules. So when I went to Belarus, in Belarus, they don't jaywalk. Jaywalking is when you cross the street, even when you're not supposed to. In Columbus, Ohio, at my town, at my university, we just cross the street whenever we want. There's no rules. In Belarus, there's a very strict rule. You never jaywalk. In another rule in Belarus, you don't smile. Like they do not smile in that country. They don't do it. It's a legacy of Soviet times that you wear a mask. When you're on the street, you have a mask. You don't show any emotion. Here's another rule that I thought was very unusual. You're not allowed to take pictures of the public buildings, of the airport, of the subway, because this is some big secret and they think you might be a spy. So you're not, I mean, I was just walking around. They have a beautiful subway system in Minsk. Every station has different art and it's perfectly clean and beautiful. So I was taking a picture until my Belarusian friend said, no. You're not allowed to take pictures of public artifacts in Belarus. Okay, here's a rule I had to learn in China. Take off your shoes. So we think this is really weird to be in someone's house just wearing your socks. In fact, in America, not having your shoes makes you feel weak and vulnerable. So we go in a house in China and we're standing around in our socks. And first of all, our feet are cold, like our feet get cold. And then secondly, we just feel like a child. We feel like a weak, vulnerable child without shoes on. But maybe if Chinese people come to our house and they have their shoes on, maybe they feel weird because they know that shoes are dirty. And they are, like shoes are dirty. They track in dirt and germs and disease. And so why would you want to wear dirty shoes in your house? But in America, we wear our shoes upstairs to our bed. Like we always have our shoes on. Okay. Also in China, they don't shake hands. It's not part of their culture. They don't hug and they don't shake hands. Maybe because, you know, their hands, they think hands are dirty. So why would, if your hand is dirty, why would you touch the hand of someone else? Because their hand is definitely dirty. So they just don't shake hands. And in China, they don't hug. Okay, so I can't remember. I mean, it's been 6 years. I can't remember what the rules are from Indonesia. But when I return to Indonesia, I'll talk to my friends and I'll watch the YouTube videos and I'll try to learn about the culture. Do you shake hands? Do you kiss on, you don't kiss on the cheek. Maybe with men you do, I don't know. In some countries like Turkey, and if you go to Istanbul, there are cats everywhere. So you kind of have to love the cats. You don't ever do anything bad. It's bad luck. You have to love the cats, give the food to the cats, etc. Okay, so now we'll finally get to online informal learning of English. Sorry. Okay. This is a book written by my friend in Paris. He is at Paris University 5, Paris Descartes. His name is Jeffrey Socket. He is a professor of applied linguistics, and he originated this field. Around the world, the consumption of language media such as TV series, films, and pop music has swelled with the advent of file sharing and other online. The social networking revolution has also presented opportunities for language learners to interact with other users of English in informal settings such as Facebook and Twitter. This book examines the private world of today's learner to discern the extent of these phenomena, their effect on language acquisition, and their implications for the teaching of language in the 21st century. So here's a case study. This is a girl I met in Belarus. She was 17 years old. In Belarus, they have a competition, a language competition. It's called English Olympiad. She won first place in the whole country. The secret of her success is that she loved video games. And for years, every night, she would watch video games and video gamers on a platform called Twitch. And then she would interact with the video game community on Twitter. So this was not assigned by the teacher. This was not part of her homework. This was her passion. She loved video games. Every night for 2 or 3 hours, she watched and listened to video gamers. She learned their language and she interacted with them on Twitter. This is the platform called Twitch. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I was not, but Twitch is another way that people broadcast live. The live streams are usually held in English, and the language is very natural and casual. So, you know, with file sharing, even in the early 2000s, people were watching television shows. Lots of people around the world watch the television show Friends. Lots of people in China try to learn English by watching the TV show Friends. Well, the problem is that Friends is not natural language. That was scripted. And so the beauty of Twitch and YouTubers is that the language is natural. So here we look at the top 10 websites in Indonesia. The number 2 most popular website in Indonesia is YouTube. People are watching a massive amount of YouTube. Probably all of your language learners, the teenagers who have smartphones. When teenagers go to bed at night at 9 or 10 p.m., they go to bed not by themselves, but with their phone. And they spend an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp or Twitter. So this is how they are getting exposure to the English language. So here's the defining of terms. Online, any resources found or shared on the internet. Informal, anything not assigned for a class. Learning, anything adding to your knowledge or understanding. English, any various styles and versions of English. Here's the background of technology in language learning. In the 1950s, when people learned languages, they went to the library. There were records. You listened to records. In the 60s, universities created language labs. You go to the language lab and you put on the headphones and you listen, and then maybe you repeat. You hear it, you repeat it. You hear it, you repeat it. In the 70s, books came with cassette tapes. You could listen at home. The 80s, the computer came online. The 90s, the World Wide Web was created. The 2000s, there were user-created discourse communities where we could type to each other around the world. In the last 10 and 15 years, the smartphone and YouTube has radically changed the possibilities for learning and using language and learning culture around the world. So here's a case study from France. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but France has the reputation in Europe as the lowest English speaking proficiency. So every 6 years, the Ministry of Education in France surveys 5,000 teenagers. And usually there's no movement. From 1998 to 2004, the teenagers did not show any improvement. From 2004 to 2010, the teenagers did not show improvement. From 2010 to 2016, there was a massive improvement. 16 percentage points. So the French people asked themselves, what was the most significant change? They had not changed their language, their pedagogy, or their curriculum. So what was the most significant change between 2010 and 2016? The smartphone, introduced in 2007, in common usage by 2010. YouTube, bought by Google in 2006, in common usage by 2010. So by 2010, French teenagers were watching massive amounts of YouTube on their smartphones. Here's another case study of what this looks like. This is a girl in Belarus. She was 16 years old. She loved math. So she watched Number File. She watched the Try Guys, but she was also a teenage girl. Hours a night. Here's a case study of my wife and I. My wife and I are hoping to relocate to the UK. We watch Netflix almost every night. Almost every night, we have long days, we work hard. At 9 o'clock at night, we lay on the couch and we watch Netflix. There's a very popular show. It is set in Ireland. The show is called Dairy Girls. And it is in English, but there's a small accent, but there's a lot of cultural references we don't understand. So we are watching this show for two reasons: entertainment and learning. As we watch this show, we have our phones and we look up Irish history, Irish culture, Irish geography. So this is our own case study. We have a goal. You know, obviously, we know English. We are native speakers. When we go to Ireland, we will be able to speak English. But we need to know the culture so that we can communicate effectively. I was in Ireland a couple years ago, and quite often people said things to me in English. I understood every word individually, but I did not know what they were trying to say with those words. So even though I know English, if I go to New Zealand, if I go to Australia, if I go to Ireland, that doesn't mean I will understand what they say. So here's how academia can use YouTube. When I was the director of the ESL program at Ohio State University from 2013 to 2015, we created a YouTube channel. We had a couple thousand subscribers. We had a couple hundred videos. We put all of our lessons, grammar, vocabulary, culture on our YouTube channel. My friends in Turkey at Istanbul University did the same thing. They used their teacher candidate students to create, I think, 1,600 videos. They created a curriculum, a library of videos, and all of them are on YouTube, all levels, all skills. So this is the goal of intercultural communication. What do you see here? If you look at the picture, you see a football match, what we would call soccer. You see this person I've circled in the jacket, the coach. This is who I am as a teacher. I am the coach. The students are the players. The students are out there playing the game. I train the players. I help the players practice, but ultimately, I am on the sidelines. I am the guide on the side, not the sage on the stage. Students need to be the players, and teachers are the guide to coach them. Okay, so thank you. Thank you very much for listening. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you want to ask. And of course, this is my Instagram. I think Instagram is a very powerful way to connect people across the world. I follow people all over the world. I interact with them. I engage with them, and I'm friends with them. So I would be honored if you join me on Instagram. I'll follow you back and we can communicate. We can keep in touch. So now I'll go ahead and answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brock, for your sharing. It is very impressive. And now time for question and answer session. I will read the first question in the chat room. The first question is from Mr. or Miss GS. He asks, what do you think communication in pandemic nowadays? Because we are here in Gorontalo, especially during the online class, shall it not decrease the communication factor in real? However, all students and teachers are forcing to use media in learning. Please, Bob, to answer the question.
Yeah, you know, I'm really excited by what I've seen during the pandemic. You know, we have a saying in English, every cloud has a silver lining. And certainly the pandemic has been a dark cloud over all of us. I've lost relatives and friends in the pandemic. Maybe you have lost them as well. But during the pandemic, I think teachers have adapted in exciting ways. And I think it has forced us to encourage the online informal learning of English. And I think there can be lots of genuine interaction, not just Zoom and not just watching YouTube, but I'm talking about interacting with people on Instagram and Twitter and Twitch. So I know the teachers were forced to make immediate adaptation, but I think it's the technology was perfectly suited to help us find the silver lining in the very dark cloud of the pandemic.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And now we go to the next question. The second question is from Nina Nur Amalia. She wants to know, when we go to different country to the first time and we have to understand their rules, their culture, how can we immediately know and understand about them? Okay, Bob.
Right. So this is exactly what I do. Yeah, this is exactly what I do. I get on YouTube. Like before I go anywhere, I get on YouTube and I watch videos. And this is how I learn. I mean, I think this is one of the best ways to do it. And it's fascinating to me. No matter where I go in the world, I can watch videos made either by local people with local knowledge, or I can watch videos made by foreigners, which have the perspective and questions I have. So, I mean, I can't stress enough the power of YouTube to help you with the target culture before you go anywhere.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And the next, the question is from Bu Nurul Hasanah. Since that we live in virtual world today, is there any general rules or culture that we must obey by the internet user, or we call it in Indonesia netizen?
Oh, you know, I live my life by the same rule online that I do offline. Treat others the way I want to be treated. We call this the golden rule in America. I mean, I have adopted another rule for online life. Like before I post anything, before I write anything, I ask myself, is it necessary? You know, do I have, you know, if somebody says something mean and I want to reply, is it necessary? So is it appropriate and is it necessary? But otherwise, I think the golden rule will help us on the net. Treat others the way you want to be treated.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And the next question from Amel. She wants to know, have you ever get experience in culture shock when you went to the other country? How do you cope with that? I mean, like, how do you communicate with the people?
Yeah, you know, Belarus was really hard for me because it was the first time I'd been in a Russian speaking world. And I was all by myself. You know, when I went to China the first few times and when I went to Indonesia, I had wonderful guides who helped me with everything. But when I was in Belarus, I was pretty much alone. And so I just tried to have a little bit of confidence, have a little bit of faith in myself, not beat myself up when I made mistakes, communicate non-verbally, try to communicate through behavior. A big part of communication is behavior. And so yeah, I guess I had a little culture shock, and it was hard for me in Belarus because I like to smile. I like to smile quite a bit. And in Belarus, like they just thought I was really weird. So, I had to adapt. You got to learn the rules and then play by their rules.
Okay, the next question is from our committee. Is it possible that if we don't obey the rules that you have mentioned before, will we get some punishment like happened in Singapore later?
Yeah, I guess it's possible, but I think within certain bounds of commonly accepted human behavior, I wouldn't worry too much. Like the Indonesians I met are kind, polite, generous people. And so I don't think you're going to get in trouble. Um, just try to do your best, and hopefully there won't be any sanctions. Certainly in America, you're not going to get in trouble if you litter. In fact, lots of people litter. So I don't encourage it, but in China, everybody litters. It's almost like that's what you do, because there are people who sweep the street. So if you don't litter, then they don't have any job. So actually, I hate to admit this, but when I'm in China, I definitely litter because I know that's what they do.
You do so, yeah. Okay, we still have two more questions. The next question is from Rini Jayanti Harja. She wants to know how we keep our communication with students during online learning, especially in English teaching, because our students have many obstacles using online media.
Oh, okay. Hold on. My connection is getting kind of bad.
Okay, I will repeat again. The question is from Ibu Rini
Oh,
Jayanti Harja.
wait. I think I found it. I think I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. So advice for giving to students. Are there any tips? So, I think the biggest, most important tip is to be observant. When you enter into any communication community, look how other people are communicating to each other, and then try to mirror that communication. So when you enter a new community, be silent for a while and be very, very observant and try to notice what other people are doing and then mirror that. That's the best advice I have.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And the next question from Eri Windianti. How about what about there who live in village that there is lack connection or internet? Meanwhile, teachers should adapt with the internet.
Yeah, all I can say is hopefully those situations will be less and less, especially with 5G. Hopefully we can connect people through the phones and help people feel like they're part of the global community.
Okay. Yeah, and this is the last question, I think, Bob. From Filza Andiani. She wants to know, when we want to realize informal learning using YouTube, which can be said to be wasteful of internet quota, while the application will be our bridge in the learning process. So it is that can hinder the learning. Do you have any suggestion to this problem?
Okay. So I think, I guess it's possible that students could be wasting time on YouTube, but I really think that anything, any sort of stimulus, any sort of input can be beneficial. And so I'm not too worried, but the teacher can be the guide. My dream is to create an app that would make it very easy to allow students to find the most relevant and useful videos. Because there's a lot of videos that might not be any good and you can waste time. So my goal is to create an app that makes it very easy for students to find the right target cultures and the right videos.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
All right, you're welcome.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, due to the time of limitation, I do apologize that we cannot answer all of the questions. Now, I will make a short summary about Bob's presentation. Communicating in different cultures is like playing same game with the different rules. If we try to play different game with the same rules, we will make a big mistake. The language teacher is like the coach on the sidelines. Students must be the player, and we merely guide them to improvement. Thank you, Bob, for sharing your knowledge and experience in today's discussion. And countless thanks for all participation, for your active participation. Before we end this meeting, let's take a picture together. Please, all of you, turn on your camera. The committee. Tell me if you are ready to take a picture.
Okay. I just record until 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, against 1, 2, 3. Just one more. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm done.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks for your information. This webinar is the annual program of the 6th Students Research Expo 2021. We hope to see you at the next event of the 7th Students Research Expo 2022.
Bye-bye.
See you next year.
Bye.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Bob.
Bob.